We will lead off with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the prayer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remove your hats for prayer.
God, thank you for this day and this beautiful weather. Please be with the people from ADM, their families and their workers, and then please be with the farmers during this harvest season. Thank you for this wonderful, wonderful week of weather, and we hope the farming season will be prosperous. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Roll call, please.
Mark Bennett.
Here.
Teresa Bain. Here. Cody Brand.
Here.
Tim Brown.
Here.
Carol Cole. Here. Charles Davis. Julie Edwards. Here. Martha Fernhaber. Clay Hardy.
Here.
Annette Martin. Here. Tad Mayhall.
Here.
Keith McCormick. Tim Morse.
Here.
Lori Nelson. Here. Bobby Orman.
Here.
Sonny Ross.
Here.
Mitchell Schuff.
Here.
Don Tate.
Here.
Brett Wallace.
Here.
Jeremy Williams.
Here.
We have a quorum. Item 3 is discussion and vote to approve the board minutes from July 13th that was tabled by Martha Fernhaber. Is there a motion to untable the minutes from July 13th? Lori makes the motion. Is there a second? Don makes a second. Any discussions on the minutes from the July 13th meeting?
Can somebody who didn't table it, untable it?
Yes, sir. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Up next is July 18th special meeting, tabled by Fernhaber as well. Accept the motion to, I'm sorry. We took it off the table. Did I take a motion to take it off the table?
You took the motion, take it off the table, yeah.
Okay. That was the discussion there, Hart. Now, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So the July 13th?
The July 13th minutes. Jeremy makes a motion to approve the July 13th minutes. Mark seconds the motion. Any discussion on the minutes themselves? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to July 18th. Special meeting tabled by Fernhaber. Is there a motion to untable the July 18th minutes? Lori makes the motion to untable, seconded by Clay Hardy. Any discussion on untabling? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries to untable the minutes. Now, I'd like to have a motion to approve the July 18th minutes of the special meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the July 18th meeting? Lori makes the motion. I get a second. Brent seconds the motion. Is there a discussion on the July 18th special meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to August 10th. Is there a motion to approve the August 10th meeting minutes? Carol makes the motion to approve the August 10th meeting minutes. Is there a second? Clay seconds the motion. Any discussion on the August 10th minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'm going to break my neck if I keep turning like that. Next is August 30th, special meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Don Tate makes a motion to approve the August 30th special meeting minutes, or I'm sorry, special meeting. Is there a second? Yeah, Tim Brown makes a second. Is there any discussion on the August 30th special meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 4 is the announcement of vacancy in Shelby County Board District 4 due to the resignation of Matthew Kessler. Item 5 is the announcement of vacancy in District 9 due to the resignation of David Ogden. Item 6 is Chris Stroll from Lakeland College. She's here with an informational presentation about the Effingham Regional Career Academy. So, Chris, you have the floor.
Thank you. I do have some paper copies if any of the board members would like a paper copy. I think that the presentation was included in your board packet this month. So I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to highlight some of the information that's in the presentation. I won't take too much time. Looks like you have a full agenda for this evening. Again, my name is Chris Stroll. I'm the Dean for Workforce Solutions and Community Education at Lakeland College. The college had started an endeavor a few years ago with some of our local high schools to be able to upskill our adult workers, but then also provide a training mechanism or a pathway for some of our high school students that maybe are not looking to go on to get an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, but they're looking at the possibility of just some short-term training so that they can fill some of the needs that are within some of our own businesses and our own communities. So I'm going to cover just a little bit of information. The mission of the Effingham Regional Career Academy, and you'll hear me refer to it as ERCA, E-R-C-A. The ERCA mission is to attract, retain, and grow area businesses by providing sustainable pathways to high-skilled, high-demand careers for high school students, adult workers, and incumbent workers. So an incumbent worker would be someone that is within the organization that maybe has an entry-level position. They need just a few more skills to be able to upskill within the organization. The vision for the ERCA is to deliver an innovative, skill-based, sustainable educational model for career exploration and training of students and adults that leads to a pipeline of engaged team members in a regional workforce. So again, looking at the ways that we can serve some of the people in our community, some of our community members, that would be able to give them a skill that they can meet some of the demands for our employers in the area. The ERCA is really committed to providing opportunities to those students to give them the workforce and technical skills that they need to be able to attain a career and have a sustainable wage to support themselves and their families. Creating a collaborative relationship between regional high schools and the community college and business and industry, kind of a three-way circle. Creating innovative and dynamic programs, so not just some of your traditional programs, but also new programs. So one of the things that we're really looking at right now is artificial intelligence and some of the other new things that are coming into the workplace. Providing relevant curriculum and appropriate resources to meet the needs of our diverse communities, and continually improving teaching and technology while creating partnerships, not only to benefit students, but also to benefit our area businesses. Providing a return on investment. So that would be a return on investment not only for the community, but also for the student who will have a sustainable wage. So what is the ERCA? We are looking at 5 different career pathways to be able to train our adults and our students in. We're going to focus curriculum and advanced hands-on training in manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare, technology, transportation, distribution, and logistics, helping students of all ages meet different career goals. Some of the benefits behind the ERCA is that we can upskill some of our current workforce. We can help them establish careers in areas that they really want to be a part of. Enhance our own workforce. So we're not sending kids off to college. They're not coming back to our area. We want to keep our own talent here and be able to provide them the training that they're looking for, but then also to inspire our current businesses and new businesses in the area. Again, you'll see a picture with the career pathways listed on it with agriculture, advanced manufacturing, technology, healthcare, and transportation. There's also a map of the 14 school districts that have signed on with the ERCA. 2 of them right now are in Shelby County. Right now we are only offering one class, the Explore ERCA class. So once we get more of those curriculums and the pathways developed, we see other school districts, even within Shelby County, that will be interested in taking classes within the ERCA. Again, I talked about a little bit about the organizational structure, some about the curriculum. We're still working on developing some of the curriculum, so those classes could be taught at our Effingham Technology Center, but then also within some of our local businesses. There's a picture with our facilitator in one of our classes that we have right now. So you'll see that the facilitator is a person who is bringing the students together and helping them learn some of the skills that they're going to need in the workforce. You'll also see a picture of the future home of our Effingham Regional Career Academy, which is the former Patterson Technology Building, if anyone is familiar with that. The name that the college has decided to go with for the old Patterson building is the Effingham Technology Center. There's a little bit of information about where we are at right now. So we're working on redesigning the building, and we're also working on building the curriculum. There's a few other things in here, but I would entertain any questions from anyone that they might have at this time. Yes.
I don't have a question, but just a comment and a thank you for programs like this, for somebody who didn't take a traditional route to get to where I'm at today. I really appreciate this, especially the endowment piece, to be able to keep this, at minimum to no cost to folks. And so if we're bringing this to our community, it's needed and it's really appreciated. So thank you for that.
Well, we brought business leaders together, and many of the business leaders will say, number one, we need childcare. I don't know if you're hearing that in Shelby County, but we need childcare, and we need skilled workers that can do the skill that's needed in our area. So the thing we want to be able to provide, and I said it before, we want to keep our local talent right here with us. It's not a bad thing for a young person to go off to school, but when someone is 30 or 35 years old and did not take that traditional route, because I also did not take a traditional route into education, it is nice for them to be able to still be able to raise their family, work a job, and be able to take some skill development so that they can improve their lives and themselves. I would entertain any other questions.
I had a question, but I was reading through here and I see how it's funded, so that was kind of my another question.
Is your contact info in here in this packet?
It is not, but I think Jerry's information is on the back page. If not, I can leave you a business card.
Yeah,
Or
that would be great. There's some, yeah, things I want to touch base with you. Absolutely.
I'm going to give you my work number, and then I'll give you my supplemental.
Sure. Only because they're trying to work with the county.
When you said that, I'm like, you bring up a good point. Childcare is something that we're hearing throughout the area. There are some people that are literally quitting their jobs so that they can stay home and take care of their kids. There are good people that we're losing to the workforce, but there are choices you have to make when you're a parent, and those are just things you have to do. Yes, sir.
Maybe a silly question. I don't know why, and I just wonder what your thoughts are about schools cutting industrial arts and home ec and stuff like that. That just makes everybody's job a lot tougher. Shouldn't these kids be growing up a little quicker in that respect? I mean, I think this is great for people that need to get a start, like you said. I wonder why we would cut programs like, and some schools have, like industrial arts. That's so important.
Yeah. I sat on a school board for a number of years. We made some very hard choices when I sat on a local school board, and it wasn't that we didn't want to offer the programs. We just there are certain things we had to do by state law, and some of the elective courses we just could not keep at the time. What we would like to see with a program like this is that the high schools would not necessarily be offering some of the classes, but these would be dual credit classes. So someone as a junior or senior in high school would be able to come and take these courses And it would not be something that the high schools would have to invest extra dollars in equipment and supplies and teachers. They could send them to the ERCA. Does that help?
Sure.
Okay. I wish I could say that there's like a big bucket of money and all the schools can offer everything they want. And,
Yeah, we got lots of money to play games, you know, when it comes to, but anyway,
yeah.
sorry.
No, I don't disagree.
Any other questions for Chris while she's here?
Thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 7 is the County Highway Engineer's Report. Department updates. Michael, you have the floor.
Thank you. First off, I'm going to reintroduce myself. My name is Michael Doppendorf, new Shelby County engineer. I would like to thank the community. I have actually had a lot of support. People saying they appreciate that I'm here and they're glad that I'm here, and so thank you guys for that. So I'm just going to give you guys a brief synopsis. So I haven't been here very long, but in the time that I have been here, I learned a lot about the county, a lot about projects and certain things that we need to get moving. And one question that keeps coming up is the Moweaqua Bridge, County Highway Bridge east of Moweaqua. And that project is moving. It was installed for a few weeks because of a utility conflict. It has since again resumed, and we are looking. I talked to the contractor this afternoon, pending weather permitting and everything like that. Looking by the end of the month to hopefully have it up and going and people able to use it again. So. A few other projects that we have moving are two Oconee bridges. I'm moving forward on a couple of documents that permitting and everything that needed through IDOT to keep those projects moving. So we're looking to keep those going, and hopefully in the spring we'll start seeing some action on those as well. We have a significant number of railroad crossings that I've been contacted by the ICC to move forward with as well. Those are projects in the next year. We might see some action on some of those on a number of township roads where the railroad crosses. I have been in review of the Finley Road with a board member here as well, and we are in review of it, and we are looking at options to possibly come up with some way of fixing it as well. There's a Prairie Township Bridge. We set a bid letting in early October, around the little town of Herborn, and so that is set for October letting date for construction probably in the spring. And just in learning more about my department, my guys are coming up with an equipment wish list that they would like to see. We have definitely some outdated equipment, and we're just at some point in time going to bring forward some wish list items to start discussing. As well as another topic is engineering technicians. We currently don't have any, and we are getting a significant amount of interest since I've been in the department, and so hopefully we'll have some help here soon too. With that, I would open it up to questions.
Any questions of Michael while he's got the floor?
One question.
Yes.
What's on the wish list for equipment?
Well, it's a growing wish list.
I doubt it ever shrinks, but
No. Starting off with a grader, our current grader has some age on it. It's from 1984, and it's broken down on us a few times lately, from my understanding. An excavator, redundant backhoe, possibly a different tractor, and other smaller equipment as well. So it is some big ticket items that it doesn't have to all happen immediately, but just a plan set in place of coming in, coming out sort of thing. So is what I'm trying to work on. So
Mark, Fox, Tim.
The County Highway 5, anything on it?
I'm learning my county highways too. So.
Okay, that's the one from Shelbyville to Finley?
Okay, yes. yes, I'm in review of that one as well. Still driving all the highways and trying to come up with different options of what we can do there as well. But I'll make sure it's on the list and in good review.
Mark?
As you already mentioned, partly the Maliqua project, Maliqua Blacktop. I've had quite a few people ask me, they said that there was a hang-up having any guardrails, and especially with all the grain trucks that are having to go around, which is a very dangerous road and very challenging.
The bridge won't be allowed to be opened until the correct safety measures are in place. And they have it scheduled. I just learned this afternoon that they have that scheduled. So long as nothing changes with their subcontractor, ideally by the end of this month, all of that should be installed and have a safe crossing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Michael while he's here? No. I think we're all set.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Item 8 is Scott McKee, the zoning administrator, discussion of findings of the ZBA on a placement of manufactured homes and modular homes, including recommended changes to the zoning ordinance. So with that, I'll give the floor over to Scott.
Okay, so this all started with an application for a building permit by Donald and Darla Galvin. They wanted to build a manufactured home inside of Westervelt. Westervelt is zoned as single-family residence as R1, and under our ordinance, you cannot build a mobile home, a manufactured home, or a modular home anywhere in an R1 residence, or a rural residence either. They are only allowed in agriculturally zoned districts. Because of that, I had to reject their application. They rightfully appealed, and on August 24th at 6 p.m. in my office, the Zoning Board of Appeals saw that appeal. They heard the testimony from Donald and Darla, and they decided to reject my decision and to recommend to the county board that you make changes to the ordinance to allow a manufactured home inside of Westerville. To that end, I have already given you guys changes to the ordinance. I hope that you all received this. I sent it in a mass email to all you guys. And if you would like, I can go through each item on it. Okay. So the first thing that we would do is, under definitions of manufactured home and mobile home, in Article 1, you would remove manufactured home from that title and replace the definition with the following. Mobile home means a movable or portable unit, no less than 8 feet but no greater than 18 feet in width, and is 32 feet or more in length, and constructed to be towed on its own chassis, comprised of frame and wheels, from the place of construction to the location or subsequent locations, subject to the provisions of Chapter 15 of the Illinois Vehicle Code, and designed to be used without a permanent foundation and connected to utilities for year-round occupancy with or without a permanent foundation. The term shall include units containing parts that may be folded, collapsed, or telescoped when being towed, and that may be expanded to provide additional cubic capacity. By removing manufactured from that definition and updating the definition, we still keep the same terms for mobile homes without that applying to manufactured or modular homes. In Article 9, C3, you would just simply remove manufactured and modular. No, excuse me, you would remove manufactured from the rural residence definition. At the bottom it says that manufactured and mobile homes and two-family, multifamily housing is not permitted regardless of lot size. You would simply remove the manufactured term from that. In Article 10, A3, you would remove manufactured and modular again. So that would simply read, mobile homes Homes of these types as defined in Article 1 shall be permitted in agricultural districts subject to the use requirements hereinafter designated in paragraph B5. Article 10, B5, you would simply just remove the term manufactured from that, so it would only apply to mobile home use requirements. Article 11, A4, you would again remove manufactured from that term, so it would only apply to mobile homes. And Article 11C4, again, you would remove the term manufactured so that it would only apply to mobile homes. And in Article 11C10, you would simply strike C10 and remove it from the ordinance altogether. Those changes would allow anybody to build a manufactured or modular home in a single-family residence or a rural residence area. Any questions?
Does the addition of the house change the classification of the property from agriculture to residential? Does not change it?
No, it does not change what we're changing is the requirement for the structure itself, not the zoning of that property.
Okay, I just thought of this a minute ago, is there anything in there that requires any mobile home on agricultural ground to be permitted, kind of like an annual boat sticker or something like that, where you're not changing the property to residential, you're not changing the assessment of the property because it is removable. However, it is a regular acknowledgement of the small stickers have to attach.
Not in our ordinance. There is nothing like that. Once you apply for a building permit, that's it.
I think Coles County, they do a annual sticker.
Any other questions?
At this, oh, sorry.
We're going to have a motion to make these changes to have the discussion, or we're going to have the changes before we make the motion to make the changes?
Let's go ahead and make a motion. So, motion would be? Oh. So the motion on the floor would be?
I'm not interested in making a motion. I'm interested in there being a motion made.
Is there a motion can we get a motion to change the zoning ordinances as presented? Yes. Jenny makes a motion, seconded by Cody. Now we'll move on to discussion. Julie?
At this committee meeting, or the zoning board, were there any concerns raised by people in the area against this?
No. Almost everyone in Westervelt is either family of or knows the people that are trying to build. And beyond that, I did do everything by procedure. There was 15 days notice, and
Okay.
no one came to object whatsoever.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I'm sure there's a lot of support behind this, myself included.
Any other questions?
So you support the changes?
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries to amend the zoning ordinance as presented. Now I'll move on to item 10, which is discussion and vote to approve a one-year lease agreement for office space at 315 East Main between Shelby County Community Services and Shelby County Zoning for $2,400 a year. Is there a motion to approve that one-year lease? This is for the zoning office. Mark makes the motion and Carol seconds the motion. Any discussion on this?
Yes. Is this also the EMA office?
Correct.
The same?
Is this a new charge? Do they always pay this every year, or is this something new?
I think it's new. I don't remember.
It's new.
Yeah, I don't remember ever doing something like this before.
I was told that the contract was new. I don't know about the charge.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
Yes.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shutt,
Yeah.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Brett Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Motion carries. Item 11 is discussion and vote to authorize the state's attorney in conjunction with the sheriff to negotiate terms and conditions and MOU for FOP union. This was tabled in June at the special board meeting. I entertain a motion to authorize the state's attorney and the sheriff to negotiate. Get a motion?
You want to take it off the table first? Is that
I'm
what-
sorry, yes. Is there a motion to take it off the table? Jeremy makes the motion to take it off the table. Give me a second. Mark seconds it. Okay, all in favor of untabling it, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries to take it off the table. Now I entertain a motion to authorize the state's attorney and the sheriff to negotiate with the FOP. Cody makes the motion. Jeremy seconds the motion. Now we'll move on to discussion. I'll just start off the discussion is that there was a committee meeting Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. And I feel that the sheriff and the state's attorney are well charged with information to engage the union, themselves and come back to the board with a proposal. So, if there's any other discussion,
I have some questions.
yes.
If these negotiations are ongoing, why did the $6 an hour stop if this is continuing on?
Because the approved MOU stated that it was for the term of the emergency order.
What was said was that there was a, what'd you call it? An impasse, maybe? Evidently, there wasn't an impasse if you're still negotiating.
Well, there is no negotiation right now.
What was Tuesday?
It was a off-the-record meeting.
What,
It was an off-the-record meeting because the rep could not be there. So it was off the record.
but you met with the union and you discussed things. I would call that negotiations.
We did not negotiate with them. They were there present for the meeting, and they were there in closed session. So we did not discuss with them.
You communicated with each other.
Well, we didn't negotiate as in terms of negotiation.
Mr. Chairman,
Chairman.
correct me if I'm wrong here, but this was just getting advice from legal counsel. Nothing was written, nothing was presented, nothing was signed.
Correct.
So all this was meeting with legal counsel. There was nothing more than that.
With the union in the room. I'm sorry, guys, you were negotiating. And you said last time we met that you had reached an impasse, and that's why the $6 an hour stopped.
$6 an hour stop, we reiterated, because the MOU stated such.
That is not what you said at the meeting.
Fair enough. Cody?
When we negotiate, we can talk with the union, we can sit down with the union. It is if you want benefits or you change something in the contract, that is usually what's considered bargaining.
I've said in these meetings, I know what it is.
I'm just letting everybody else know.
Any other discussion?
I guess I do, yeah. So I'm unclear. It was stated an impasse took place. It was stated that as long as negotiations were in good faith, that the money would continue. Correct? So if negotiations were not ongoing and we're picking it back up for negotiations, then how did that take place? How could there be an impasse if negotiations weren't happening? And how can money be promised and taken away if negotiations weren't in progress? I don't understand.
I wasn't in a meeting with anyone until Tuesday. So I can't
But you
answer.
stated there was an impasse, so I'm trying to understand how you know something, again, that we're picking something up that was paused, right? So if money was to continue to be paid during negotiations, the negotiations weren't happening, but money was taken away, there can't be an impasse if things aren't happening. So understand, I'm very confused. And I'm actually seeking some clarity on what's been said versus what's actually taking place.
I believe we had not asked our state's attorney to negotiate on behalf of the committee, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't approved by the full board,
No, it was not approved by the board.
so we weren't actually in negotiation.
But concessions were offered for ongoing negotiations.
I don't believe so.
Concessions were offered to negotiate.
Correct. You heard the sheriff say that as long as negotiations were ongoing, premium paid would continue. As promised by the state's attorney. So I don't understand, again, there's a breakdown in communication on this, and it's happening right now in this room, on an understanding of what's taking place.
I don't have anything.
But somebody has to have the answers.
Bobby, is what the motion we have on the floor, is that for a whole new and separate negotiation
It would
thing?
be for them to pick it back up and negotiate it back out and then come back to the board with an offer.
But that doesn't clear up what I've asked.
Cody?
Hey Sheriff, have they filed a grievance for the stop of pay?
There has been agreements filed.
So if they go to court, they go to step 3, and the judge finds it, then they get back paid.
Or we resolve it before then.
Or you resolve it without court.
They're just at step 2.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't stress that. The meeting on Tuesday was for the grievance. So that's where this agenda item that even was taken in June still is relevant today. And that's why it's still on the agenda. What's transpired between June and now, it's basically under contract. Whether or not the interpretation of the contract is one way or the other, the contract stated, a timeline and 2 timelines, and one was conditional. So when that timeline ran out, which was actually 3 months ago, then at some point in time, we have to do something. So now, it's back to, now it's in the grievance process, so we're addressing the grievance process.
To be fair, leading with that would have been partially clear on this conversation.
Sorry.
Leading with that would have helped a little bit.
Right, and this is, it's a complicated mess, if you will.
I will.
Mr. Chairman,
So,
my understanding, which is why it was tabled, is because the board was not clear on what negotiating ability it had.
right.
There was supposed to be some conversations to where we knew what we were going to be able to negotiate. I haven't heard what those numbers are. I understand that those numbers have been revealed somewhere, and that's how we're able to move forward. There was a discussion and vote to authorize the state's attorney and the sheriff that we were to have taken to allow them to continue negotiating. That was tabled due to lack of information. So there have been no negotiations going on since June 27th.
Not that I'm aware of.
Correct. Which is why the return back to the MOU, original information, had to apply. So we're at the place where the sheriff and the state's attorney are informed as to what they are empowered to negotiate, and we are now authorizing them to enter that with the union. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Once they engage, once they come to an agreement, then the sheriff will come back to the board with a proposal.
Then they will come back to us, and we will have something to approve or disapprove from that negotiation process.
Correct.
I have another question.
Yes.
As a board, have we decided as a board what they can do? Because if we did, I missed a meeting. I know we had a meeting downstairs, closed session, and we were supposed to get together and talk about it. And as far as I know, unless I wasn't invited to a meeting, I don't know what we've authorized them to do.
Well, that's what, we haven't authorized them to do anything except for to negotiate. And if what they negotiate is approving is suited to the board, then it will be finalized.
I thought we were to give them guidelines in that meeting we were at in the closed session.
Were we to give him that, or was that going to come from the treasurer? What I know the treasurer was going to put some numbers in, see what was manageable, but I don't know that had to come through the board. I think that was between the sheriff, state's attorney, and the treasurer. The amount. I mean, that's my understanding. The amount was coming from there.
I understood to insert Bellwether also.
Yeah. Okay.
Parties.
Yeah.
So
So we're just supposed to say you can enter the negotiations or no,
yeah, what they do in negotiations will not be final until we approve it.
and then we
So
approve
if
it when
they're,
it comes back to us.
so if their resolution is completely unachievable by the board, then they go back. So at that point, I mean, we'll just have to vote on something in the future.
So to approve or not approve what's been negotiated.
But if I remember right, that was the closed session that we were discussing those venues and those ideas. And it's time to let them figure something out. It's gone on long enough, so. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 12 is discussion and vote to allow County Compton to mow the weeds and disc the county farm for $30 an acre. That's 197 acres. Upon the recommendation of the Farm Committee, Carol, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Okay. The Farm Committee, well, we have weeds, big weeds. And the Farm Committee talked about spraying a burn down, which was a lot of money.
And probably not effective.
And not effective. And so we contacted Kenny Compton to see if he would be able to disc for us. And he said he could, and he gave us a price of $30 an acre. There's 197 acres. What we need is approval to pay him to do that.
A motion, can I get a motion on the floor? Jeremy makes a motion, is there a second? Seconded by Mitchell, okay, on the discussion. Any questions for the committee? Cody?
So what has changed? We couldn't do anything, and now we're disking. What has changed in the last couple of months?
We have an agreement that we can do this. I have an agreement with the state's attorney. I have signed paper that we can farm, we can disc.
What would,
Sorry, Mark.
what was written on that to allow that from what we previously knew?
I conferred with the state's attorney along with Jeremy and Mitchell.
Okay, if
I was told before if I would like to recant what I said about bodies. I don't know if there are any bodies out there, okay? I said, I don't know. Nobody knows for sure. So we have an agreement that I signed. If Bobby would like to read it, that's up to you. But this was between the state's attorney.
I can.
That's if everybody would like to.
I'll do my best.
My voice is objection so far.
I guess everybody can know it if they want to. That's, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, fine with the clerk.
It's filed with the clerk.
The County Board of Shelby County, in regards to the matter of the county farm and the clarification of the public record. Whereas Carol Cole and the state's attorney Robert T. Hanlon have conferred with respect to the prior statements made in a prior county board meeting where Mrs. Cole made a statement concerning human bodies may have been buried outside the delineated cemetery site on the property known as the county farm property. Whereas the state's attorney placed the county board on notice concerning provisions of various statutes concerning human remains. Whereas the state's attorney has assured Mrs. Carol Cole that he will not undertake any action against Mrs. Cole for correcting the record or for her original statements. Whereas the certain representations were made and spread into the public record. Now thereof, in considerations of the mutual benefit to the public and clarification of the public record, Mrs. Cole states on oath the following: that the prior representations to the county board in open session were based upon a third-party statement that Mrs. Cole has no personal knowledge of any human remains present other than in that area bordered by 4 wooden posts and purportedly known as the county cemetery on that portion of the property previously known as the Shelby County Poor Farm or the current county farm. In considerations of the mutual benefit to the public and clarification of the public record, Robert T. Hanlon, state's attorney for Shelby County, states on oath the following: that he will not prosecute any person who relies upon this letter, and that should any person cultivate in an area not on the area defined by the wooden post and purportedly known as the county cemetery on that portion of the property previously known as the Shelby County Poor Farm or the current county farm. Based on this representation, the clarification eliminates any concern that would impede farming on the property.
Mark, did you have a comment?
I just had a question. Just because I have a different lack of knowing, we can do this without bidding it out because we already have a contract with it? It doesn't, because it's under a certain amount of money? Okay.
And I might also say, I got a call from Jeff Huska today from the health department. If we don't get rid of these weeds, there's going to be repercussions from the county, from the health department, because there's noxious weeds out there.
Mark?
Yes, I would like to go on the record as saying that according to this agreement, it cancels out what Carol had announced earlier, that there was bodies supposedly buried anywhere on the county farm, which she purposely lied about it. That's the reason. That is the reason she signed the paper. And it's also written. And the statement was then written in the Decatur Herald and Review, and that is the reason for the affidavit.
So just a clarity on the actual action. going to work the tillable and mow the waterways. We're not mowing the entire farm, we're not working the entire
He's
farm.
already mowed the waterways, he just did that because that was part of, he was supposed to mow it twice,
Mm-hmm.
and so he just did that.
Okay.
So now he needs to disc all the weeds.
Okay. So the only thing, so we will have a bill beyond the $30 an acre tillage part. We'll have the mowing part, which was already agreed on.
And he just gave that to Jessica this week, I believe, is that right, Jessica? Yeah, it was $500.
Right. Any other discussion, questions? Mitch?
Yeah, and I think Carol, we had a conversation today, about, we might have to, there's some heavier patches of weed, we may have to do some extra disking on the heavier patches, whether it's 20 acres or 40 acres, we may not know until he gets disked at once to figure out exactly, what it looks like anyway. Because he got a pretty, I questioned Kenny on the type of disc he had, it's a pretty heavy duty disc. It's a Landau VT machine, so they're pretty heavy, and it should do a fairly good job. There's just some heavy residue out there, so.
I believe that's what they used on it 2 years ago.
What's that?
I believe that's the same tool that they used
Oh,
on
is it?
2 years ago.
So I would encourage to do this because it's cheaper than actually spraying. We determined in our last, not our last farm committee meeting, but the farm committee meeting before that spraying was going to be ineffective just because the weeds went to seed almost. So Carol had the idea to call Kenny and a lot cheaper way to do that. So. And I would have to say, I don't know if Carol lied, about something. I don't know if she intentionally lied, but about whatever, bodies or whatever.
So,
Mark?
I hadn't worried about it.
Because we're between the fiscal year 3 months and 12 months, is the $6,000 in the budget?
Yeah.
There's allowance for that?
It was
And
amended.
It was
It was amended during the
Okay.
3-month budget.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's in there, and it allows for the extra disking? Okay.
Which we may just have to disc 20% of it, we don't know until the first pass goes.
The spray down was $10,174.
Yeah.
Cody?
I just want to call it
Mr. Mayo had his hand up.
I did. So we have a certain level of respect and conduct that should be expected in decorum here, right? And I think as chairman, I think that I would ask you to intervene when it comes to, we can have our personal opinions, but I don't think necessarily launching those as receiving tax is necessary in this environment. That's not the decorum, this is not the place, and we owe people a little bit more respect than that.
Any other discussion?
I just have one question of clarity. I voted no to put beans in it because of a concern of being sued, and that affidavit ensures that none of us are going to be in trouble, including the farmer. I just want to be crystal clear on that.
That's the way I read it, and that's the way I understand it, that's correct. Any other questions, comments? The call of the vote has been made. So on item 12, all in favor, say aye.
We did that.
I'm sorry. Yes, we are. We had a properly made motion. I do believe it was, Jeremy, you made the motion? Jeremy made the motion, Carol seconded it. Mitch seconded it, I'm sorry. Mitch seconded that. So now we'll take roll call vote.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
Yes.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhall,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
Bobby Ormond,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shuff,
Yes.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Brent Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Motion carries. Carol?
I might add, when I talked to Kenny, he said if this got approved, he could do it tomorrow.
Very good.
And then he'll submit his bill. And then I can call the health department and tell them that everything's okay.
Okay, item 13 is a discussion and vote to approve phase 1 of courthouse window replacement and step renewal projects. Don, you got the floor.
Move that the county hire Hudson Associates to work with a contractor to do research and provide the following: window removal and replacement pricing on a per floor basis, address issues related to stucco and price solutions, with an estimated cost of $17,500. So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Sonny. Discussion.
Okay, I've been in contact with Hudson Associates, and they have given me a 3-phase project agenda for doing these 2 things, and this is the first phase to get an estimate of what the cost will be to do each phase, and then we'll bring it back to the board as a phase 2, phase 3, with all the various things that those phases entail and cost.
Okay, does everybody follow this? Is there any idea, when we talk about phases 1, 2, and 3, I assume it's going to be 4 by 4 by 4?
No, the phase 2 would be the window work,
Okay,
and phase 3 is the stucco work.
okay, so phase 1 is the termination.
Is
Phase 2.
giving us an idea of what the cost is going to be, so we can decide whether we want to do phase 2 and phase 3, or where we want to go from here.
Okay. So,
Will be considered part of the ARPA project and come out of ARPA, just clarification on that.
yeah, this would be an ARPA project, correct?
Probably should be, yes, part of the ARPA budgeted amount, yes,
For projects, yes.
unless we can do, we've had discussion with the grant people that we may modify the state grant and try to use it for the stucco part of the project, but that's in discussions yet.
So phase 1 is just launching the project and getting it started?
Basically, that's right.
Okay, good. Any other questions for the committee while Dawn has the floor?
I just want to say thank you, Don. This has been a ongoing nightmare of a thing. So thank you for 2 years for sticking it out and finally making some progress.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, then taking the roll call, please.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bang,
Yes.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Clay Hardy,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Tad Mayhaw,
Yes.
Tim Morris,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shuff,
Yes.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Brent Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, Dawn. Committee? Item 14 is discussion and vote to approve the county credit card policy upon the recommendation of the legislative committee. Jeremy makes a motion to approve the county credit card policy. Is there a second? Julie seconds. Discussion about the policy.
Who gets the cards?
Sorry?
I guess everybody might like to know who's getting the cards.
It's in the, oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
Well, the policy's written to, I believe, to operate in a couple of different ways. Departments such as the sheriff's department that are on duty all time will have access to a card that they can use all hours of the day and night. There'll also be cards held, I believe, in the treasurer's office for checkout and return. There are forms that should have gone out that just correspond to all the different steps of the process to make sure that everything's documented, that everything's there. So some departments may have a card like in hand, and others will go get a card to make their purchase.
There were several departments that said that they do not need a card, do not want a card, but there may be instances that come up where an order or something where they have to have one. There's one available for them in that event.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll skip item 15 to go to 16. And that is, item 16 is discussion and vote to approve the new public body comment policy and upon the recommendation of the legislative committee.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Jeremy makes a motion to approve the public body comment. Is there a second? Mark seconds the motion. It's kind of like an option here.
I'm not offended, go ahead. You guys stick together. You guys have to stick together.
So Jeremy makes the motion, Mark seconds the motion. Any discussion on the public comments policy? Tim?
I enjoy the public body comment about as much as the rest of you, but I think we should do it before the meetings instead of afterwards. I think we should go back to having public body comment first. That's all I got.
Let's go back here, Don, we'll go back there.
I have no problem with what was just said, but make sure that the public body comment, if it's before the meeting, pertains only to things that is on the agenda. If there's other things involved, that be afterwards.
Jeremy?
I can offer some clarification to that. If we were to limit public body comment at the beginning of the meeting to agenda items, we would have to have another public comment at some other point during the meeting because we cannot limit people's comments. So in that case, we'd have to have two. Might as well stick with one and leave it open. My opinion. That's just my opinion. So
I'll say something else. These meetings aren't taking so long because of public body comment. They're taking so long because of us. I mean, that's just true.
Carol?
I was going to just say whatever they said.
Okay.
Basically, that I think it needs to be before, so the people who are here, they may have something they need to say about the agenda that we don't know about. An opinion, just know something about it that we don't know. I think we need to hear from them. Don't shut them off. And, yeah, have it before we get started.
Any other comments, questions about public body comment policy?
Questions, just for clarification purposes. So we're reducing the amount of time per speaker at this point, right? You've got levity to extend the 5-minute time, but it's at your discretion. So what's the basis for not allowing timeshare at this point?
Jeremy?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The policy is reducing the yielding time. What was the discussion on that?
Mostly just to streamline, make it more effective and efficient, keep better track. It can get pretty hard for particularly the chairperson to keep track of who's had their hand up the longest, who had their hand up first, who has how much time left, who yielded what, and this will make that a lot easier and more streamlined, especially for yourself.
So I guess to that point, then, to continue on with my question is, then why not extend their time to 7 minutes, since we're not allowing yielding of time?
I suppose I have a few answers to that, Tad. I believe the Attorney General has opined that any public comment policy adopted must enhance the public comment experience. And we have, because of, well, we often have folks who get interrupted, or we have folks who aren't quite yet finished, or they get talked over, and if Bobby can just run through a name down a list, then you know who's got the floor, you know when they start, you know when they're done, and that way nobody gets interrupted or talked over, okay? Also, the 5-minute limit that we have in place currently is actually a fair bit more than a lot of other places have. That's why when the original policy was set up some months ago, which was actually, that part was a continuation of the policy of the previous board, 5 minutes was somewhat generous compared to other places I've been, and we wanted to maintain that.
Any other questions? Teresa?
So it's my understanding you sign up if you want to do a public body comment when you come in the door for the meeting, but then you don't have to. You can wait till everybody's done, and then you can do your public body comment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And actually, that process does prioritize, it prioritizes the ones that, they plan to speak. And then before it still gets opened up to the ones that haven't signed up, post to prioritize people that have planned to speak. I've seen that happen in other meetings too. So. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
So I've heard it more than once now, which is a suggestion or a desire to move it to the front, which then we need to bookend it, right? So then somebody speaks 3 minutes to discuss items that are on the agenda. Is there time then reserved for post with 2 minutes?
There's actually nothing in our policy that I'm aware of that requires me to keep time. So once you speak for a time, and if you don't use your full time, then you would be done.
So then why are we putting 5 minutes on this? I guess I'm just trying to understand, right? So if somebody has something to say before about an agenda item, and it takes them 2 minutes, we gave them 5 minutes to speak in this venue, we're not going to reserve. So, you're going to have to keep time if you're going to hold somebody for 5 minutes, right? If we're going to, if we're putting a time.
There's no stipulation. Either you use your 5 and you stand to speak. And if you don't, then your term has been expired and we'll move on to the next.
Right, but what I'm saying is you said that there's no requirement to keep time, but if you're going to limit to 5, you have to keep time.
You have to keep the time, but I don't have to write it down and say you've got this much in the remainder.
So somebody chooses to speak for 30 seconds before the meeting, they have no ability to speak at the end.
I challenge that actually to the extent of it's separate public body comments.
I'm asking a question. That's actually a question, in the form of a question. Are they going to be allowed to speak 2 times is what I'm asking.
So if it was only restricted to 1, and this could be part of what's written in the policy.
And that's why I'm bringing it up for discussion, because I guess it's muddy in my brain is if somebody spoke for X amount of time up front, is there again an allowance to speak on the book end at the back end of this thing?
Are we discussing 2 public body comment sections? Is that in the policy?
Well, part of the discussion we're at right now is the inference that there would be 2 public body comments.
But is that in the policy? Because I didn't read that in the policy. So I'm just curious why we're talking about 2 public body comments.
Because Mr. Brown brought up the fact that he would prefer it to be moved, which then forces us to have to allow it at the end if it's only going to be restricted to agenda items.
It doesn't force us to have 2. It doesn't force us to have 2 public body comments if we put it at the front. It's at the front.
If you're going to restrict the first session,
We're not.
We're not. We can't do that.
We're not going to do that. If we were to do that, we'd have to have a second public comment at the end so people can open up for whatever they want.
yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get clarity on. I was understanding.
So Don's expressed comment was that if we did move it to the front, then we would have a agenda-driven public body comment and then an open-ended public body comment. We would have to write that into the policy. So it's kind of a moot point because it's not written in the policy, and somebody wants to make an amendment, but otherwise we can send it back to committee.
Mr. Chairman, I think we ought to approve the policy as written.
make a motion then to amend that we move public body comment in the policy to the beginning of the meeting.
The chairman reserves the right to move agenda items around that can't be blocked in policy.
Correct.
It seems to counteract itself, is what I'm saying.
Now,
Call the vote on the original motion.
if there was a provision in the public body comment policy that says there must be two, then there could be something done about that, but there's nothing written in it as we speak.
Just call the vote.
Do I have a motion on the floor to amend?
I'll withdraw.
Withdraw? Okay.
Yes.
So I had a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Raise your hands for no's, please.
For yes, is
or
it
no?
yes? Wait a minute.
Yes or no?
No's. Raise your hands for no's, sorry. Clay, Tim, Tad, Carol, Teresa.
6.
6 no's. That brings us to 10 ayes.
We got 17.
11 ayes. 11 ayes, 6 no's, motion carries. Item 18, we will skip 17, move to 18. Committee reports. Anybody like to report on the committee reports?
Yeah, Bobby, I'll expand on what Michael explained. Michael brought up the old equipment. We've got a road grader out there that's 40 years old. The track hoe is also at least 40 years old. I can tell you myself, I farm with old equipment, and this stuff just doesn't last forever. Eventually you get to a point where you can't find parts, or parts become increasingly expensive. So where I'm going here is at some point in the future, we're probably looking at purchasing a grader and a track hoe. I'm just getting you prepared for the sting of that. Hopefully it's later rather than... I was out there visiting the guys, and the road grader was down, the turbo went out of it. And they explained that it was very hot then, and it's kind of like farming. There's seasonably favorable times to do certain work, and they like to oil roads when it's really hot. And their road grader went down so they couldn't oil road. They had shiprock ready and they had oil ready. Fortunately, Rose Township let them use their grader. But there is going to be a sting come, I think. Eventually we're going to have to buy a grader and probably a track hoe too. So I just kind of wanted to get everybody prepared for that. The equipment will not last forever. Thank you.
And there's a large likelihood that a lot of that would be through their grant funding based.
Right.
So it would be an expenditure, but it should be.
Hopefully I don't have to
Hopefully
come
it's
here
paid
and
for.
ask for money. Hopefully we can do it that way.
We'd still have to approve the funds, but it would be funded rather than the county. It'd be through a grant or something like that.
Okay.
I think hopefully that's how it happens. Any other committee reports?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go. You're good.
I saw Tad's hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just, so U of I Extension, we met last week. A couple programs that I find to be near and dear, which is food supply, making sure that food is provided to folks. The number was somewhere just under 40,000 pounds of produce was provided to, our area alone over the past year. An initiative that was started last year was a way to provide lean protein to our food banks. And as a last-minute, first-year initiative, they were able to distribute 2,700 pounds of venison, so lean protein, to local food banks for distribution. With that, this year, there is a drive to do that even more, and there are a couple of employment opportunities as a driver, a transport driver for this to packing plants and to the food pantries, and so if anybody's interested in making in the ballpark of $19 an hour, and plus mileage to transport protein and meat to the pantries from the processing plants, get with me and I've got that information. But I think it's a very big success to be able to provide that level of food to those who need it. So,
Very good, thank you. Julie?
I was asked to kind of mention this. I've been asked, and I think I sent the email out to everybody just for informational purposes. There is a group here in Shelby County Early Childhood Planning Group, and it consists of GPI, a representative from GPI, a representative from one of the churches, someone from community services, several local businesses, large employers, and they've identified that there is a huge, almost crisis point of lack of daycare, reliable and affordable daycare in Shelby County. So I spoke with Brenda Elder, who from Economic Development, who was kind of the contact person of this group. And then I sat in on a meeting with them this week, and there will be another one at the end of the month. Right now, they are in the early planning stages. They've asked that someone from the county be involved, not necessarily as the county to take this project on, just because it's a project that will affect the community, employment, it's another resource for the county. And Moultrie County has had great success. Moultrie County worked with this group, the consultant that they met with, and they were able to add 100 daycare spots in the Moultrie County area, like reliable, affordable daycare for working parents. So this is really a project that they're hoping that they can get together and get implemented. So if anybody knows of any business or anything that might be interested in helping with this, structuring this, just please let me know and I can get you Brenda's contact information. It is almost impossible to find reliable, affordable daycare in Shelby County. So this is a very important project, I think.
Any other members like to contribute to committee reports?
Yeah.
Jeremy?
Yeah, there was a farm committee meeting Monday night, and there were a lot of questions asked, and I really appreciated that, and I wanted to try to do my best to answer those questions, again, as best I could. There were a lot of questions asked about public purpose, because that phrase gets thrown around all the time. Public purpose is the use of the land itself in the most literal sense. It is, think of it as the parcel, the property, the land, the dirt. Okay, funds fall in the same category. They have to be used for public purpose, but we're talking about literally the land. In our case, there'd have to actually be a purpose that directly benefits public for growing crops. The money is another issue that comes later when you sell the crop. For example, the courthouse serves a public purpose. We have meetings and proceedings. We store public records. You can come here and do your business with the county. The sheriff's office exists to serve and protect everyone. The highway department builds and maintains roads and bridges that anybody and everybody can use. And so, the way we have it set up now, there's really no purpose for the public to visit the farm like you can benefit from all those other offices and departments. And in the final reading of the new law, HB 1076, in the Senate, it was actually stated that counties still have to meet the constitutional requirement for public purpose. That didn't excuse us from that. They actually went out of their way to reiterate that. And so, also in that bill, in its original wording, the way it was submitted, HB 1076 said that the public purpose was to generate revenue, generate funds. And the Senate, in their amendment of that bill, took that language out because they saw the constitutional issues, problems, and concerns with having a public purpose be to make money. That is a problem. The Senate saw that, and they struck that from the bill. Also, the general tenor of the Investment Act, which tells us what we can invest in. It tells us what we are permitted to invest in. It only allows for things like interest-bearing accounts, savings accounts, CDs, things of that nature. There are a few other things, but even simple and everyday things like money markets are under certain restrictions. There are some we can and some we can't. So we're told what we can invest in. Anything not on that list is going to be an issue. And there's nothing in the Investment Act that says we can invest in a farming operation. Also, we can take no risk. I mean zero risk with taxpayer money, unless it's something like the government would default. That'd be about it. And farming by default is a risk. You're betting on weather and input prices and commodities prices, etc. And taking out crop insurance does not mean you're not taking a risk. It actually admits and acknowledges that we are in fact taking a risk, just in case anybody wondered about crop insurance. I'll also point out, with a 22-member board, the minimum requirement for holding a legal meeting is 12 for a quorum. And the way we've custom farmed last year and this, if we were ever to only have 12 people at a board meeting, we could have a meeting and we could actually approve something, if it only required a simple majority, with 7 votes. So we had plenty, but theoretically, last year and this, we could have approved a farming operation with 7 votes. That's the absolute legal minimum. Now, HB 1076 requires the 3/4 vote of the full board, and that'll include a crop share, a cash rent, or a custom farm. And that's of the full board. That's not just of who's in attendance. So out of a 22-member board, we went from requiring an absolute minimum of 7 votes in the worst case scenario to requiring 17. Any farming this board wants to do is going to require 17 votes. And I don't know if people really realize that, because it requires 3/4 of the board. Also, I just wanted to point out, in doing some research, because we often talk about Constitution and statute and Attorney General opinion in court cases as the things that kind of bind us the most. In a court case, Dunn versus the County of Rock Island, it was a state Supreme Court case, so it went all the way to the top at the state level. They said, in a quote, "The powers of counties are public, and they are not authorized to go into private business." And that's pretty straightforward. There's not even any legalese in that. Let's see. I guess I'm just going to conclude it there with that. I just kind of wanted to try to answer some questions and concerns that were expressed Monday night, so I appreciate the latitude for the lengthy time.
Any other committee reports? Hearing no other committee reports, we'll move on to chairman updates, beyond vacancies. There's nothing to come off the top of my head for updates. Item 20 is correspondence. We all received a letter from the city of Shelbyville requesting a governmental agreement. We shall have to receive that. Moving on to item 21.
Are we not going to discuss that?
So, I don't know if we need to discuss it, but I will tell you that what comes for public safety or legislative? In order of meetings, committee meetings, regular scheduled meetings.
Oh, legislative will be Tuesday.
Legislative comes up Tuesday. I would suggest that legislative takes this up and reads through it, pitch it on to public safety, and then we'll come back to the board on committee's recommendations.
Which committee?
Both. Moving on to item 21 is chairman appointments. Okay. I have Richard Coons, Commissioner of Opening Grange District, as a trustee for a 3-year term. Any motion for that? appoint Richard Kuhn to the committee. Is there a second? Sonny seconds the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is Joshua Collenberg to Commissioner of Combined Drainage Districts of District 2, Town of Tower Hill for a 2-year term. Is there a motion? Clay makes the motion. Is there a second? Second by Cody. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is the first one a 3-year and this is a 2-year?
So, there's 3 commissioners on a trustee, the board of trustees. Each one is a different term. So, when they are filling if they're filling a vacancy or whatever the case would be, they would be fulfilling the term of the one that they would want. So, there's always one set for 3-year, 2-year, and 1 year. That makes sense. I wish, yeah, we used to have some good drainage district knowledge on the board. So, and a motion and a second, any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of Joshua, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is Nancy Hannigan for Commissioner of Combined Drainage District Number 2, Town of Tower Hill. Mark makes the motion, is there a second? Cody makes the second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is Kent Poole, Commissioner of Union Drainage District Number 1, Townships of Flat Branch and Assumption for a 3-year term. Any motion? Mark makes the motion, a second. Brent makes the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is Julie Elbert, Commissioner of Combined Clarksburg and Shelbyville Townships, Drainage District Number 1 for a 3-year term. Jeremy makes the motion. Is there a second? Cody seconds the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to item 22, old business. Yes, I skipped it. Any old business? Hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of the claims. Is there a motion to approve the claims? Cody makes the motion to approve the claims. Is there a second? Don makes a second to approve the claims. Any discussion on the claims? Mark?
So there's not a big surprise to anybody. There is about 3 months worth of interest that has built up on the farm bills that has to do with fertilizer and fungicide. To the approximate, I don't have the exact number with me, I believe it's $796 somewhere in there.
It's more like 1,800. Finance charges.
Don? Okay. Don and I both went through it. Anyway, we were curious as to why we never received a statement previously to be paid. Don't know where it went to previously, but if I'm not mistaken, I think, Bobby, you received an email that lost in the mail?
To the best of my knowledge, because the manager at Tower Hill called and said, hey, just check on these statements, and I said, I don't know what you're talking about, so he emailed them to me, and then I forwarded them on to the clerk and to Carol. So
we do find it very odd that 3 months in a row we would end up with late charges and we never ever received a bill. But we are 3 months behind. Payment.
I can add something to that, Mark.
Okay.
When Jessica sent these to me, I went to FS here in town and asked if we could get any of the finance charges off. They actually took off $532 of finance charges, but then I knew we would get them back on again because it wasn't paid by the end of August. So we got another finance charge just, at the end of the month for $543.82. And I think that's probably on the bills that are being paid, the invoices that are being paid. Is that right?
That I can't tell you whether that one is on it or not. Yes.
Yes, it would be on it,
Yes.
yeah. So we should be all paid up to FS now.
So after we pay the bills this month, we should pay it up.
Bobby, so they said these bills were lost in the mail for 3 months in a row?
That's the way I understand it.
Did they just mail a bill, or did they also email? Did they just do one thing?
Right, they send paper copies every month. If there's a balance on account, they'll send that paper copy every month. If there's no balance on account, there's no reason to send anything. But back in January, when we had this discussion, I requested that they send the email version. That way I could have it prior to the break in the month, because then we have, with FS, you have the 25th to pay your bill. Oftentimes, the mail would be delayed till after the board meeting or even the committee meeting to approve the bills to send to the full board. So I requested that they were sent via email. When I searched my emails, I only had 2 emails. One of them was from January, and then one was from 2 or 3 weeks ago. That was the current, with all the current bills.
Do they follow up with an email? Do they send both, or do they typically just send a bill in the mail and that's it?
So they send a paper copy a statement.
And that's it? Like an email wasn't also supposed to arrive, right?
Is not required.
Okay.
What's your answer?
Well, I'm just confused as how bills get lost in the mail. The same bill 3 months in a row. Where was it going? What was the billing address? Where were they sending it to?
Bobby, that's a question I got on this here. Say, what's the address on that email, on that their paper copy? Where's it going? Where it's supposed to go, I should say. 'Cause this has been a pattern with the wheat hop money, or the wheat, if I remember right, Mark, there was some interest on 52,000 or something when we had wheat fertilizer and wheat seed. We had the same problem. There's a lack of communication or a breakdown in communication. But FS and what?
We had some extra wheat that we needed, that Kenny needed to finish the sowing of the wheat over what we originally purchased.
But there was some interest too, wasn't there, or not?
I believe we had that taken off, that got taken off.
But there
I
was
had
some
that
interest.
taken off, but that came actually from bills from back in November that were found and realized in January.
And those bills would have been addressed to,
In the same place.
What is the address?
It's the Shelby County Farm, care of the Shelby County Clerk, P.O. Box 230, Shelbyville, Illinois.
You didn't get no.
Nope.
So I don't know.
so yes, to me, the biggest question here, just like Jeremy said, is how can you lose 3 months the exact same way and then never receive it?
Right.
As somebody that sends out hundreds of invoices every month, I'd say 30% of my customers don't get their mail. Mail, completely, well, it's terrible. I mean, so 3 months in a row does not surprise me at all. I got customers that don't ever get it, and I've checked their email or their address. They just don't go. It goes from Herrick to Champaign, back to Herrick or back to wherever, and it gets lost somewhere. So 3 months in a row doesn't surprise me at all, to be truthful with you. I hate to say that, but just the way it is. I mean,
And everybody knows since, this was everybody look back in a couple months from now and didn't know about this situation.
And I don't remember, I did not know the difference, so some companies will bill, so when you're in season, it's like the spring season, they will bill all in post-season, so like midsummer, they'll send out a bill that includes all of your spring accruals, and it's due for the next month. I guess I just never thought about it any differently because I'm used to that program where they bill all the in-season inputs at the end of summer, basically. So when I wasn't receiving an email, of course I didn't think about receiving an email until probably mid-July or even August. So, yes, sir.
This can't happen again. Having late bills, interest, whatever, 1,500, 1,800, 700, whatever it is. So this farm committee, we have to dedicate, I don't know how I want to say it, dedicate somebody to that specific agenda or item to make sure, track these invoices, whether it's by email or go pick them up by hand or whatever the case may be, but we can't keep having this problem going forward in future invoices. So I assume, like Kenny, he'll send an invoice. How's that going to happen, Carol? Do you know?
Kenny just brings it to the courthouse.
Okay.
And gives it
He's going to guarantee that it's
Yeah.
delivered.
Yeah.
Carol, I would suggest contacting him if we're dealing, we're dealing with that in the future. I would
I've already
recommend.
taken care of it.
Huh?
I've already taken care of it.
That's you.
I get the
that's you.
emails.
Right,
Yeah.
no, not you, her.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's not only accounts payable, but she's also keeping the records.
I think I told the girl to send it to me and to Jessica.
That's great.
And that's why I got this last finance charge.
Yeah. Maybe get this cleaned up a little bit. Okay. Any other questions, comments on the bills? Right.
So I heard fees are removed, so are we all straightened out on that?
No,
Or do we
not
need to
all the
amend it?
fees.
You said you got some of them removed. So are we, so
Well, big part
do
of
we need to
it,
amend
not all of
this?
it.
Do we need to amend it to get it? Okay.
The bills as presented. So, any other questions, comments about the approval of bills? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bain.
Yes.
Cody Brand.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Clay Hardy.
Yes.
Annette Martin. Tad Mayhall.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lori Nelson. Bobby Orman.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Shep. Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Motion carries on to public body comment. As stated previously, there is still a rule that 5 minutes, rule 5, maximum of 10. Please state your name for the invitation, and yeah, time will be it.
That's right.
Okay, I'd like to open the floor to public body comment. Here in front.
Jeremy, I got a couple questions for you. Who wrote these rules, and are these the actual laws that we have to follow? Did you write these?
Right, what? I don't think
You told my wife you wrote these resolutions. Is that right or is that wrong? Pardon? Yeah, so do you think that these are rules and the laws we have to stand by?
to which do you refer?
Any of these, all of them. Are you saying this is what we have to do? It says right here, on the first one, the new farm law states this removes the requirement that the lease must be for a specified purpose for farming. You're talking about county home laws. HB 1076 doesn't have anything to do with that. You're saying the farm does not put its may put a taxpayer at risk. There's crop insurance, no one's put at risk. Could be on number 4, could be, doesn't mean anything.
I'm not sure what you're reading, Jay.
Your resolution.
This is your resolution, these aren't mine, these are the ones you made, and you said, hang on, approve that. That's what you told my wife, is that right or not?
What exactly does it say, and I'll answer your question.
I'll go back to that. You're saying the county's competing with someone. Well, if you sell this land and you say it doesn't help anyone here, if you sell this land outside of the county, then it may not help anyone here. So I mean, almost all these resolutions, you said it doesn't make enough money. What do you mean it does not make enough money? It made $49,000 a year. In the last 5 or 6 years, it's doubled in value. Let's say it's worth $2 million today. It was worth $1 million just a few years ago. But you don't care anything about that. You don't care. Are you going to sue people if they vote to sell a farm? If we have a meeting and we decide we're going to sell a farm, are you going to sue somebody if they vote to keep it? That's what you said last time. Hey, my memory's not gone. That's what you said. I'll get it in writing if you want me to. But Mr. Hanlon said at that time, you might sue someone that was a county member if they voted for the farm. You threatened people that if they voted that way, if they voted to sell the farm, they might be sued. My memory's not that bad, Jeremy. You don't remember anything about that?
When in the world?
I tell you what our problem with public purpose is in Shelby County, and that's the guy sitting right over there per gallon than you. This is just crazy crap. We got rid of a dive team for no reason except Sonny wanted to get rid of the dive team. No one proved it to be illegal. These dive team members, none of them did anything illegal that could be proven in a court of law. Somebody just said they did something illegal. They didn't do anything illegal. They took part in the whole thing. I sat there and watched you. I guess you didn't want a dive team, and I guess Sonny doesn't want one. I know Kirk doesn't want one, but his buddy said he didn't really care. Or he indicated that. I mean, this just goes on and on. Every day is a new emergency of some kind. Every single day they find something else. Laugh if you want to, Kirk, but it's the truth. I don't really care if you laugh at me or not. In fact, I'm impressed if you're laughing at me. No. I mean, this is just crap. So Sonny goes out to the airport board yesterday and they get to give their money to somebody else. I mean, this is just on and on and on and on and on. I don't get it. This county got along just fine previously. We didn't have any of these problems until the watchdog showed up. They created all these problems that we had. Did we have any before or not? And you're going to say that are you going to sue someone if they vote to farm the farm? Are you?
No.
Well, you're telling them it'd be illegal, so we can't do it. So would they be performing illegal acts? I don't think they would. I don't think these resolutions are worth the paper they're written on. They may be, but my opinion is they are not. And you're determined to sell a farm, and you and both and the rest of you know the community doesn't want to sell it. But you're determined to sell it anyway. And why? I mean, I don't understand. What in the world is going on in this place? I mean, this is just insanity, and it comes every day and every week. One continuous thing after another that somebody did something wrong. I mean, I've had it. Eddie Bodecker left here the other night because he was under so much pressure and he hates what's going on so bad. He had an attack and had to go to the hospital. They took Jim Lynch out of here this evening, or they came to check on him because he's so fired up about all this crap that he... my wife said you sound mad all the time. And she's probably right because I am mad. But anyway, I'll calm down a little bit because she's asked me to. And she's very good as far as I'm concerned. But all this crap is just crazy.
You can say something about it.
Well, Kirk, I'm sure Dave, you know, we shouldn't have a diet team, or at least your buddy did. That's nice.
Public body comment in the back.
My name is Tammy Smith. I'd like to give my statement this evening with an apology and an amendment to the statement I made at Monday evening's
Farm Committee meeting. During my statement, I indicated that a new position had been created in the state's attorney's office for an assistant state's attorney. What I intended to say was a new position had been created for a special prosecutor in that office. So much for speaking off the cuff, that's over for me. I apologize for my mistake. Striving to be a kind, decent human being, in my opinion, holds including myself accountable for my words. When I witness actions and read comments put out by many of this board's members, I see no one holding themselves accountable. Part of being a leader and making decisions that affect the entire citizenry of our county demands an even higher sense of accountability, in my opinion. I've yet to read or hear apologies to people whose lives have been negatively impacted by derogatory comments made by members of this board, an elected or appointed county official, or the Edgar County Watchdogs. As my grandmother and mother used to tell me, you should be ashamed of yourselves. When Mr. Height spoke his truth on Monday evening regarding the clandestine meetings that have occurred at the Nazarene Church before scheduled board meetings while he was a member of this board, it took a lot of guts and a brave heart. What he admitted to being a part of is highly questionable and raises a lot of concerns. And I would like to add at this point that if any of you members were members at that point in time that he was discussing, you should resign. After performing what I'm sure constitutes many hours of soul searching, he chose to do the right thing and hold himself accountable. For that, I would personally like to thank him and send him the message that I hope he feels he did the right thing, because he did. I admire his truthfulness and bravery. I feel that there are many board members in this room tonight who could do with a little self-reflection, self-awareness, and accountability, and it's not too late. The last perfect person we all knew hung on a cross. Thank you.
Evening, everyone. My name is Jerry Gannis. First thing I want to speak to you about, Tad mentioned the food pantry earlier. Whichever direction it is, the food pantry by the Methodist Church by the grade school over here has a food pantry, and it's been there for like 20 years or something. It's going to close at the end of this month, or at the end of the year. Nancy Mills is stepping down and retiring from it. She did it for 16 years with her husband and did lots of great work for the community. That food pantry in August of 23 fed 180 households, 500 individuals in those households, 190 of which were children, $150 worth of food to each household. That was $27,000 worth of food that month. They're funded by churches, Central Food, Midwest Food Bank, and other banks. This is a good forum to let everyone in the county know that we're going to be losing this. If somebody doesn't step up, there won't be anybody anywhere to take the deer to that all these other programs are going to be doing. So we need somebody in the county to step up and have a place to do it. I don't know if there's another church in town that would be willing to do it, and preferably at least 2 people to run it, because one person is just too much for them. It was like more than a full-time job for Nancy, and we need somebody in the community to step up and do that. Then I would like to talk about the county farm some. I spoke Monday about creating a food park district. Again, tonight there's like 4 different times that the farm has come up. It's always coming up. I would hate to know how many hours all of you have spent discussing the farm and text messages and emails and phone calls and stuff over the last several years. All of the people who want to save the farm, all the hours that you have spent coordinating and doing everything. To me, if we create a park district, that farm will never be able to go anywhere then. If you want to preserve the farm, make a park district, donate the farm to it, and the farm will literally be there forever. You can't hardly destroy a park district. It'll create public purpose. Park districts can do so many different things that counties can't do. A park is not, I don't know, it's not like a county or a town or something, you know what I mean? It's meant for public purpose. That's the whole point of it. So basically anything you do in a park district is public purpose. There's not much that can be argued about that. as for legality of like donating, can the county even donate something to a park district? There's a Local Government Property Transfer Act, 50 ILCS 605, lays out that all municipalities can donate to other municipalities any property that they deem that they have a use for. So if we form a park district, say in the spring on the ballot, then the park district, once it's formed, could write an ordinance that says that we have a use for this property that you have. Then the board could vote to donate said property to the park district, and we could roll from there. Something was brought up about like taxing powers of park districts. There's a park district code, 70 ILCS 1205. Section 5 has taxing powers. It's something like a 0.1% on the whole county's taxes. I haven't really delved too deep into that yet. The IADP guy told me, though, that we are a tax cap county, so if we put something on a ballot to create a park district, we also have to put something on the ballot that says there's a tax cap, something. I'm not exactly sure what the proper wording for that is. What, the detail? Yeah. So you have to put something on the ballot to go along with that. It seems to be gaining some traction. I've gotten lots of feedback from different people in the community, different organizations. I'm proceeding to put together a citizens committee, hope to meet not next week, probably the beginning of the week after that, and have something to kind of present to the board at next public body comment, more likely. Thank you.
Just a comment to this. I spent quite a bit of time already this week speaking with Jared, and I'm encouraged about his passion for this project, right? The preservation of some property, with the drive and desire to provide local food resources for our community, right? There's a big initiative, fewer miles between food, right? It really improves your economies of scale, your fuel consumption. It ends up being better quality food. And fortunately, dropped into my lap yesterday, which was forwarded to Jared, was an article of an initiative here in Illinois to be able to provide the food to schools, right? So there's rules, regulations that be followed, and there's an initiative by the state to try to help get the locally grown items into our local school districts. And what did we discuss this morning? 12 districts that touch our county. And so he's moved at light speed over the last 4 days to build a committee of interested citizens from every corner of this county. And I applaud your efforts, Jared, for doing this. So thank you so much.
Sorry. Mitch.
Been on the farm committee. I like Jared's idea. We've been trying to find solutions to farm with public purpose of the use of the land. So we got a lot of advocates out in this room. I would really like to have a show of hands who would be willing to donate the county farm to his, you would be not making no more money anymore. You'd be donating that farm to his project. So would anybody like to show of hands that they would support that, or?
Further details.
It'd be a tax levy, and you'd donate the farm to him, so it's a pretty simple question.
Because it will be a loss of revenue, correct?
You'd lose lots of potential revenue if you custom farmed it, so it's a fair question, I think, because the committee's trying to find a purpose, a solution to do that history, so I would like to have a show of hands who's in support of that.
Can I speak? I'd love
That's up to
to.
him.
Can I respond?
Keep this to one speaker at a time as a public body comment.
I'm done.
I appreciate the seek of support, but I mean, even myself, I'm absolutely supportive of running down this path of at least investigating the whole scenario. So,
I just need to know, as a farm committee, we need direction.
yeah, so is there, in support of seeking information and continuing to run down this idea of Jared's,
because he's put a lot of time into it.
right, is there general support
Yes.
of his idea? you know, I'm in support of at least investigating it very hard. In favor of investigating it, yeah.
Investigate all options.
All
All options.
Right.
Not just one.
You're good. So, it's a pretty well consensus of the room that we want to explore all of our options before any haste, or what seems to be haste, action. But I can tell you that for 4 years we've been exploring all of the options. But it's limited, you're pretty well limited to a public purpose idea of a 501c3, nonprofit, or a park district like you suggested. It's only been till now that somebody's really put a lot of effort into who would be willing to spearhead the project. So now we have something to work with. Anyway, moving forward to public body comment. Over here.
Can I ask why on number 21, chairman appoints, why did we skip over Jordan Kamek, dive team commander?
Sorry?
It's on your agenda. Why did you guys skip over on number 21, the Jordan Kamek, dive team commander? Why was that not talked about?
Yeah, so we asked some info on how things we do before we do that.
So you don't have to speak about it when it's on the agenda?
Nope.
You don't say anything?
Chairman, appointment to discretion of the chair. Public body comment.
I got a question. I keep hearing this about public purpose. Where does that come from? What document is that in?
Constitution.
The Constitution. Okay, thank you.
Public body comment. Yes, ma'am.
A couple things. This public purpose, and if you investigate that and type that in, there is no one definition for public purpose. It's a very broad brushstroke. They really probably need to change that and use it to say something like, for the good of the county, for the good of the county population, instead of public purpose. Because even if you talk to 5 different lawyers, 5 different people in that pew, they're going to have a different definition. And none of them are wrong. I feel like on the county farm issue, we kind of made our point Monday night. I think we need to have a really solid committee of farmers in the area and legal representation outside of what we are looking at now. Because I think the direction that we're going is just whatever the state's attorney wants to do is what we're going to do, and he's going to push that. And I don't like that anymore. We're done with that. But we need to have a discussion with a group of people who are like-minded, who can really sit and throw something against the wall until something sticks that works, that's legal, because other counties are doing it. And I know that maybe that's not a good argument that other counties are doing it, but the Attorney General's office knows all about it. Our governor commented on Shelby County when he passed the law on August 4th. So we can go back and forth with this public purpose. I know it's been said before, physical public purpose. It's not the same thing, folks. Public purpose means it affects the people in our community. Physical public purpose is like parks, schools, racing tracks, that sort of thing. So we have to be sure that we separate those. Those are 2 different animals. Very, very different. You can't talk about one and act like it's the other. It's not the same deal. But we need to spend some time tossing ideas around from the people that do this for a living and say, hey, we could do this, and that works perfectly. And then if we have to, I don't know why the AG's office isn't giving some sort of a response to, is there anything wrong with this? Because clearly, if they wanted to get after us about it, they'd already done it. And we also cannot waste time trying to get around farming some property, okay, and arguing about it when it could be producing income that goes in the bank account that is the public purpose. When you have to spend money on burn down, you have to, you farm. If you have to spend money on burn down, would it have been better to just disc it to begin with? To handle it all year since, June, July, when the wheat came out? There's a point where you have to take care of your business. And we're no longer doing that. So then we have to spend more money to take care of business after the fact. If you're going to put corn in next year, you got to get a hydrous on. We're north of Route 16. So we got that issue. So we just going to keep going around the horn, or we got to make a decision and farm it until we know we can't, because everybody else is doing it. We don't have anyone to say, no, you cannot do that. Our governor specifically spoke about us. in his conference after he passed that law. So we need to find out really what the true deal is, and sometimes you just have to go forth and be wrong later, because at this point, we have to do something instead of wasting money and time arguing about it and not getting something farmed. That's ridiculous. It's a waste of time and money.
Here, here.
So before I open the floor back up to public body comment, there's a few things I'd like to touch on in that comment. Legal representation. We've been down this path with the board hiring of outside legal counsel. That is explicitly a no-no. It's not permitted in the county's code. A committee of farmers, I kind of, being chair now, being chair 2 years ago, that's a double-edged sword because farmers know exactly what to do. But the farmers also have to recognize the county's code and what they're permitted to do as far as how they can operate a farm, whether it is a custom farm or a cash lease situation. Now, what you were referring to with public purpose, I had a conversation with somebody on Facebook. I have to go back and look it up on my page or their page if I can find it. But I quoted the 2019 annotated version of the Constitution. That on page 127 it describes, and this is basically legal advice to the legislators on how to interpret and phrase the Constitution. And it explicitly says in there that both the leaseholder and the lessor, lessee and lessor, must provide a public purpose. Now, that means physical public purpose of what they're doing. So, and then there was an opinion that you referenced. There was an opinion in 1976, to the best of my knowledge, has not been challenged. And that basically said, I think it was for Piatt County, basically said that a cash lease is not a legal lease for farming in Illinois. So, I just jotted those quick down. I thought I'd just address them real quick. I'd like to open the floor back up for public comment. Ma'am.
My name's Mary Powers. I don't live in Shelby County, but my name's on a piece of ground. So in my work, we have something called a way to be. And it recognizes when a coworker or leader exhibits characteristics that reflect our organization's behavior standards. If I worked with Tad Mayhall, I would send him a way to be. For his professionalism, he measures his words before he speaks. He's respectful to his fellow board members and the public. And he took the initiative to reach out to me about a concern I expressed on social media. I would recommend that this board identifies its own behavior standards. Think about what representatives of the people should exhibit, not just at board meetings, but when interacting with the constituents in public and online. Decisions about limiting public body comment time and topic wouldn't be necessary if the board's actions didn't warrant it. You need to consider that if you have a room full of people wanting to speak, you might have a problem with your conduct or actions. Instead of saying that no one's contacted you, open your ears and eyes, listen and read. Reach out to your people and understand their concerns. Things like coming up with a million reasons why something can't be done. Instead, come up with some solutions. Things like trying to sneak through the sale of the county farm, letting an entire dive team resign, all to not address the poor behavior of the part of a board member. They're not going to produce warm and fuzzies and professionalism and respect.
Chris Mame, I just wanted to amplify something that Christine said. No one's stopping us from doing this. The Attorney General's not telling us that we can't do this. So I simply don't understand why in the world we're leaving money on the table that could be revenue for the county by not farming this. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Sir.
Mark Shanks. I hadn't planned on speaking tonight, but I did want to dovetail on a couple things. Bobby, you mentioned about Facebook and how much it's preeminent fact of our life. I've got it up right now. So, and you made some very good comments about decorum and how we should act. And I know some people on this board have been attacked on Facebook viciously, and I think that's inappropriate, and I won't stand for those people that do that. But I also think some people, as members of this board, I think you have a special obligation as a public servant and as an elected official to not lower yourself to that level. And I think some people on this board have, and I think that's unfortunate. And I would like to see everybody work together to tone down that rhetoric and stop the attack. Just as recently as yesterday, Mr. Brands made some accusations about $500 in the receipts missing on the dive team. I think that was unfounded and incorrect, and I don't think it has any place being placed on Facebook and attacking former members of the dive team with that. And then he went on to say, you all quit and you guys forced members into resigning by giving them a pre-typed letter. That is ludicrous. That did not happen. He does not have any evidence of that happening. And I can speak for, I don't know, any other dive members here. Did anybody get a pre-typed letter given to them, or were they forced to resign?
Negative.
That's absolutely untrue and has no business coming out of a public official's mouth and Facebook. Thank you.
And then lots.
Public body comment. Brandon.
Sandra Graven, and I've got some questions for the board members. I'd like to know how many of you are farmers? Just hold up your hand. Okay. Mr. Bennett, I'll ask you. Do you own all of the land you farm, or do you rent some farm ground?
You're asking personal questions.
Okay.
Personal information about his business is not going to be.
Okay, if you rent farm ground, do you pay the taxes on that ground for somebody else? That doesn't even make sense. But yet, you voted not to pay the taxes on the county farm, which the county owns. I don't get it. That's just ludicrous. Erica, I have a question for you. Why do you think the farmer should pay taxes on land that the county owns? Another question for you. If there was a horrible accident in this county, and there is $3 million in the ARPA funds, could you get your hands on it today? And the Shelby County Airport is Shelby County property. Why aren't we taking care of that? Also, I'd like to know what happened to the profits from the farm when Mr. Fox farmed it, and he only charged the county $1. Where did that money go? And how many of the board know that Erica's dad is the chairman of the board of the bank where all the money is held? And last question for you, Erica. Would you be willing to take a $6 cut in pay for your salary? Is that fair to our sheriff and the deputies? Just some interesting questions, and that was just my opinion.
Public body comment. Public body comment. I got one in the back over here.
I'm encouraged to see more and more people getting up and talking about respect and humanity. I started coming to meetings in January, and that was my main purpose, was because I've seen how vicious politics have gotten, and there's no reason for it. if we cannot talk, I call several board members. I mean, if I ask you to raise your hand, a lot of you would, because I called you. And we have discussions. There are a few points we can agree on, and a lot we disagree on. But I think what we need to remember is that we can't solve anything by not listening and paying attention to what's going on around us. Her comments were great about you wouldn't have a lot of people here if people didn't feel like there could be a problem. I've been to a lot of board meetings where nobody shows up. You might have 2 people sitting in the room for the entire board meeting. I think it's great people are getting involved and that they're asking questions. And I think that board members, I'm very glad that Mr. Mayhall spoke up about what Mr. Bennett said, going after a fellow board member like that. I think that was wrong. And I'm glad that you asked for an apology, and I wish I'd see more of you when you see something wrong, saying so. Because unless people stand up and say we've had enough of this behavior, whether it be coming from us or it be coming from you, it's going to continue, and we need it to stop. So we could have productive meetings, so we could get to solutions instead of all the complaints. I know that it's tough to sit on a board, and I know it's hard to listen to other people's opinions you don't agree with, but you signed up for it. And, if somebody calls you up and you can't talk, that's fine, but make a time that you can. That's how we get to know each other and see who we are. I have a lot of questions about this. I asked about the R status that a lot of you put on when you ran. And because I'm seeing a lot of things like the public, our opinions are opinions. And our Facebook pages are private citizens are being screenshot. Now, when we talk about government, and we talk about what's going on in the government, as Republicans, we're livid when they are going through our private Facebook pages. But yet these Republicans here are screenshotting some private citizens' posts, sending them in so they can be ripped to shreds. That's not Republican. We protect the First Amendment, we protect freedom of speech, and we protect private citizens. And I would like to see this board stand up when private citizens who did not sign up to sit on the board are being viciously gone after. Thank you.
Erica?
I'm going to address one thing. Yes, my dad is the president of the board of First Federal Savings and Loan. We had money, the county had money at First Federal Savings and Loan before I ever took office. And we have money at Shelby County State Bank. I would say it's probably pretty close to equal. I have CDs in both, we have savings accounts in both, and we have checking. When Busey left, I had to move a lot of money from Busey, and I moved it into those 2 banks. I do not appreciate any insinuation whatsoever that my dad somehow is benefiting from the work that I do. First Federal is a mutual. The depositors are the shareholders. Shelby County is a shareholder because of that bank. You can attack me all you want, ma'am, but you leave my family out of it. I'm sick and tired of people approaching my children, bad-mouthing me to them, and then bringing my dad into it. My families have been citizens of this county for a long time. Business owners. And my dad is president of that bank and still contributing to this community. You leave my family out of it, and the county taxpayers are the shareholders in that bank. And that bank and Shelby County State Bank are very good to the taxpayers of this county. Thank you.
Public body comment. Sir?
Jeremy Skinner. I grew up here. Boy, it was a lot more fun growing up here. I have to admit. First, I got to say hi to my wife. She's probably, my lovely wife's probably watching, so thanks for that. I'm probably going to be in the minority. It's probably good for people to be in a minority position. every so often. You probably build some character. So, Mr. Allen, I want to talk to you and your colleague. I appreciate what you do. I haven't met you before. I've participated in one of your events, and from what I see, you help citizens as they navigate local governments. Local governments are the ones that you have your eye on. Now, you spotlight a lot of things, and sometimes that's a very big spotlight, and sometimes we don't appreciate it. And we might have a point at times. I turn my light on in my kids' room at 6:30 in the morning. They don't appreciate that. But they probably have a point. Probably don't need to do that. But you do you, and I'm sure everybody else will do them, and hopefully there'll be some civil discourse. But I wanted to acknowledge your purpose that I see. Your skill set, your knowledge base. I would imagine that nobody in this room probably can match you and your colleague. That's what I'm seeing. And so I want to acknowledge that. It's probably taken a lot of years to build that up, and I haven't lost sight that your aim is to do this for Illinois citizens. I want to acknowledge your effort. I don't know how many counties you go into, but you're busy. And if it's the same environment like you get here at times, I'm not suggesting that people are out of line. I'm just saying you shine a spotlight, people don't like it. Maybe you're wrong, maybe you're not, maybe you're right. I don't know all the time, but your effort is got to be acknowledged. It's a lot of miles. The last one's probably the most meaningful to me is your courage. The ability to come here week or month after month. I've seen you out here in the hallway where a swarm of people surround you, and it's easy to be the swarm. It's not so easy to be the one or two. And so that's something I applaud. And granted, I might criticize you next week, but that's the civil discourse that I hope we're trying to attain. So, thanks for the time.
Everybody comment?
I'm a little confused about the union for these gentlemen over here. How are you involved in, don't they have their own union? I mean, my husband's in a union and nobody can touch his money or take away his pay, or I don't understand how you have the right to take away their pay. Are you their union? I'm confused to that. Because you shouldn't have the right to take their money if they're in a union. You can't touch a union. I don't get it. I feel bad for them. Now they're getting a deduction in their pay. Another life-saving thing, maybe they'll quit now if they won't have any cops. Think about it. I still didn't get an answer. Are you their union? Are you in your own union?
The deputies are, yes, they're.
Okay, so how do they have the right to be involved to take away your pay?
I can't answer that.
Well, I wish they would, because I feel bad. That's terrible. It's a lot of money. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to know.
I can't get with you now, I'll get with you later.
Okay. Yeah.
Public body comment? Sir.
Jordan Davis. I just got a quick question and kind of dovetailing to hers is, if we do have deputies start resigning, there's obviously, you guys have a contingency plan for this, or is there, I'm just trying to look at the reality of this, because if you took $6 an hour from me, I would be looking, and I understand it was a temporary pay raise, so I get where you guys are saying it wasn't officially a contractual raise. But I don't care if it was a temporary raise at work. When you pull $6 an hour out of my paycheck, I'm going to start looking for another job somewhere else. And I'm fearful that we're going to lose deputies faster than you're going to be able to replace them and train them. So I'm just looking at the reality of the situation. It's $1,000 a month. It's $12 grand a year. It's a pretty big pay cut. I don't know all the legalities of what happened, but I would like to know if you guys have some contingency plan, state police coverage, something, anything. Has that been discussed at all?
That's why the the ability for the sheriff to negotiate was voted in so they can resolve the situation.
So, now with the sheriff being allowed to negotiate further, will that reinstate that stipend at all, or is that
That will
done?
that
will not
decision
happen?
will not be made until the resolution is brought back to the board for
That answers my question. Thank you.
Public body comment. Public body comment.
Bobby, could I answer a question?
Jeremy.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I wanted to answer a question about the property taxes. If you dig around in 35 ILCS 200, it's the property tax code. It says the leased property shall be assessed to the lessee and the taxes thereon extended and billed to the lessee and collected in the same manner as for property which is not exempt. So when someone leases government property, because this is governing the government itself, the lessee pays the taxes. That's
government property.
That's according
That's
to...
not personal property that the county owns.
That's public property. The farm is public property. The government owns it as government property. So if there's a tenant or a lessee or whatever you want to call it, it's required under law that they pay the taxes. And the reason I think, and I'm just my own mind here, I think that's because the money that we have to pay anything is always taxpayer money. So, I mean, you don't want to use your money to pay those taxes, right?
No, but you make the money on the farm so you can pay the taxes
Right.
and the bills and so on and so forth. What's left over is your profit.
But the money from the farm that it generates goes into the general fund. It can't be segregated and earmarked and kept over here in a separate place. It gets thrown in the same pot with everybody's tax money.
Right.
So it doesn't just come out of the farm. So when the county writes a check for the farm, it comes from everybody's money. It's
indistinguishable.
Yeah, thank you. It is indistinguishable from the money you pay in property tax, or what I pay in property tax, or anybody else. And so we have an extra tax problem and a tax without representation problem when we use everybody's money to pay into particular taxing districts. You should not have to have any of your tax money go somewhere that you don't live and can't vote and don't have representation. You shouldn't be required to have your money go for that. That's why the law reads like that, I think.
And why do we have to pay senators and representatives?
Public body comment. Sir.
Hey, Jeff Gregg, Shelbyville. I don't believe it's ever been illegal to farm the farm. I don't, you can twist public purpose and you can twist all these other things and cite all this, but I think the AG in the state, the governor have made it very clear. And to try to read something into that so we do something different. You said we need 17 out of 22. Why wouldn't 22 out of 22 vote to farm the farm, take the money, use it for the county? I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Right.
But we just keep twisting and turning what we want to hear and I think they've made it very clear in Springfield that there's nothing illegal about farming the farm. And to try to say there is or twist what you read about in 1976, that's just malarkey. Farm the farm, use the money for the county, and let's move on to something else.
I just want to kind of address, and sorry, I know we're not supposed to necessarily address, but you did bring up a concern that you said it's never been illegal. You believe it's never been illegal to farm the farm. From the part of the farm committee meeting that I watched, Mr. Lynch stood right there and said, we found out it was illegal to farm the farm via cash ring. So as a former farmer of the farm, he admitted that they knew clear back when Mr. Lynch farmed it, that they were doing illegal. Not criminal, I'm not saying criminal, I'm saying illegal. So
there was a recognition that things were not being done properly. So it is our responsibility to ensure that things are done properly, legally. I'm for it, farm it. I'm with you. If we own it, we farm it. I'm 100% behind that. But I don't want to be standing, or I don't want to have to stand up 20 years from now and say, we knew what we were doing was illegal, but we did it anyway. I think we should do it and do it right. Get our ducks in a row, do it. Get a profit for the county. But to say that it was never done illegally was contradicted by a farmer who farmed it in the meeting.
I can't speak for Mr. Lynch, I'm just saying in my opinion.
Sure, I respect your opinion. And I agree with you 100%. Let's farm it.
I have Clay over here, I'll come back. Who had a hand up?
Somebody else got their hand up first.
Who had a hand up? Somebody had a hand up? All right, Clay over here, I'll come back.
No, she was first.
Okay, we'll go with Carol, then we'll come back to Clay.
Ladies first.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the counties that I contacted that cash rent or lease their farms, it was like 50-50 who paid the taxes, and it was written in the lease. So our county could do the same thing. It could be written in the lease who pays the taxes. And I mean, that's very simple. Yeah. Just want to make that clear.
Also, Mr. Lynch was farming. Cash rent, do things.
Sir,
Bidding
hold
clause.
on a second, please.
Cash rent, can I go ahead? Bidding clause?
You've already spoken, sir.
Yeah, but you still can't, you had to use his time.
I'll wait. Will you
I asked a question.
respond to me after? I don't know. I can wait. I can meet with you after if you want to respond to what I
He
say.
still should have time.
So we've got public body comment.
He still should have time. He didn't use his whole 5 minutes.
I'm not going to get track.
Clay, did you have a comment?
New rules are in effect now.
Well, I'm all mixed up here. Not very good speaking. So, you know, I believe if we have the farm, we should farm it. But I wonder, you know, when we talk about the Constitution, how we view it today. See, I hate being on camera. And everything that comes out of Springfield is not good, okay? And look what they want to teach our kids in the schools. I think sometimes we get caught up in these little things, and while they're teaching immorality to the kids at school. But to speak to see, I'm getting all locked up here. What good is individual rights when you have private property? When you have private property, you have a place to exercise your rights. And that's what America's about, private property. I think government owns too much of, way too much of things. They're owning more and more of us all the time. They're taking away your rights. And that's where we exercise our rights, on private property. You know, I've had a lot of people I've met a couple people in my years in Shelby County all my life that I've been here, and they like to come here for vacation. They say it's like, this is like Mayberry. I mean, they really enjoy coming here. I think that's good. I don't want them to think anything else. I want them to come visit us, you know. When people think that we're out for somebody's jobs, I want you to think about this for just a minute. I worked at International Paper back about 12 years ago. And you want to know what it's like to have somebody after a job? You need to work at International Paper. Because they was out, and every day they told you, you know, here's these new rules, and you signed on the bottom line, and there was more than you could remember. And if you mess up, okay, that's going to be another mark against you. We can get you out the door. And well, they had their targets on me after 28 and a half years. And they drug tested me 2 months in a row. Every month there was this random drug test. Well, there's 800 people, 800 to 1,000 people working there. And my number was up two months in a row. So I don't know of anybody on this board that wanted to get rid of anyone. Now, they may harbor that in their heart, and I don't know about that, but I've never talked to anybody that says, I want to get that guy. Never talked to anybody like that. We have an issue here, we did have, and it wasn't good. We didn't want to walk into this thing with the the road and bridge. We didn't have an engineer. And there's a lot of people it's very precarious for some of these people. I mean, there's some people in this county that live in this hilly area. One bridge is gone, the other bridge is almost gone. I drove across it to deliver this guy's gas, and it's 10-ton weight limit. My truck weighs 10 tons, and I had extra on to put in his tank. And we got lots of issues, and the state was withholding money because we didn't have an engineer. It was a big deal. And a lot of folks, and I know a lot of folks don't realize this, out in the country, you have these rough roads. I mean, they're rough. I've seen beat the suspension out of the back end of a truck, and it costs people a lot of money. And really, the road guys are doing great. I want to commend these guys because have you seen this equipment, how it's growing and growing? I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger. But a lot of folks don't realize how important it is because they just drive the slab. My uncle used to call it the slab. It's Route 16. I mean, they don't hardly go anywhere else. There's a lot of people that needs these roads. I see these kids. In my day, I went to Tower Hill School, and we had a place where we parked in gravel, white rock, and they'd get all beat out, and they'd have huge mud puddles, and I've seen kids fall in them, in this high school. But now I see in Cowden Herrick, they got this beautiful asphalt parking lot, and they got stripes. And it's really nice. It's really great. But I'm thinking, these kids are parking on some of the nicest asphalt you can imagine. And they're going to be driving on dirt roads if we don't get, we don't maintain and take care. Because when we have an audit and they say, you guys are going to be broke in 2025, that concerns me. How are these kids going to pay the taxes in this place, when the taxes go up, and so I got in here to hopefully help control spending some way. It's not easy. I never feel good about any vote I make. I always feel like I'm compromised in some way. I always do, unless it's a unanimous vote. But I think that's about all I got for right now. I'll think of it later. But I like your passion. I'm glad you guys come back. I hope we can get you speaking. Isn't that it? Hope we can get you speaking at the beginning of the meetings, and we can get something done. Thanks.
Okay, public body comment. Sir, did you have something you wanted to follow up on? Green shirt?
Mr. Benny?
Sorry.
No, I have my turn. That's fine.
Okay. Public body comment? Kurt?
Yeah, I just want to mention some history that may help clarify, because 3.5 or 4 years ago, somebody had mentioned it, having a meeting and nobody's here. And that's what it was like. There was an opinion or an email written by the former state's attorney that said, pull the property tax from the agenda until we get an AG opinion. That AG opinion has yet to come. And that was what initially started pulling that property tax, because there's questions to that. When Mr. Cannon was the board chair I don't even remember how many years ago it was, the question during one of those meetings at the Lions Club was, what about custom farming? And it was a great question. But at the time, that state's attorney didn't want to ask the Attorney General for an opinion on it. So it laid there and never addressed it. Then the new board came in, which I believe was, I think Mark and Bobby were the only two at that time, if I recall. And Kaufman was the chairman, and you guys worked through the custom farming thing. And the only thing that hadn't been addressed yet is the property tax side of it. It's a P-Tax 300 form. The government is not supposed to pay property tax because they're tax exempt. What triggered it being taxed was it being leased. And the Department of Revenue said, you're leasing it, that isn't a public purpose, you're getting taxed on it. And until that's changed with the P-Tax 300 form, that I believe goes through the Board of Review, not the Department of Revenue, but I may be wrong on that, it may very well be tax exempt under custom farming. But you don't have that answer yet. If you have that answer, custom farming, it's working. Now, beans didn't get planted this cycle, and I'm glad that this has gotten worked out that you can disc it, but had we worked it out sooner, you might have planted beans. And maybe I'm wrong. And Jake, I need to address the board, but I do want to say, I have I don't know what you call it, it's not necessarily a coping mechanism, but when I hear something and I chuckle or I laugh, I apologize if it comes across as laughing at the person, because I'm not. What I'm laughing at is the content of what was said, because I know what was said isn't accurate with the facts. I'm sorry?
Maybe we should laugh at you.
I welcome it, I do. Everybody does anyway, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I don't really like
Right. And anyway, the other thing I want to mention, and this is back to the issue of the union, the different negotiations, the different contracts, because I've been trying to get an answer to that question that was asked earlier. But before we can talk about where was the impasse, where was the permission to start the negotiations on the MOU in the first place? It just happened tonight. So if there was any negotiations going on before, the question is why? Because there was no approval to open that MOU for negotiations. So how did that get open? I don't know. But now that it's open, it can be negotiated. But there's a path that has to be followed, and I think you mentioned it in regards to the insolvency. I urge this board to release the applicable portion of your executive session where you folks apparently were advised of a financial condition of this county that comes into play with the decisions you make. By doing that, the public will be informed and better understand why you make the decisions you make. When you talk about insolvency, there's a terminology I've heard several people, especially politicians: homes, jobs, pensions. You can't have all three in the government sector with such demands. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. There's a balancing act. But folks say, if you don't leave that money there, we're going to lose deputies. Well, we've seen this in other communities. When you continue to funnel it in there, you lose deputies. Or you lose firefighters because there's no money to pay them. And then it ends up we have to lay people off to make ends meet. And I don't know if that's the situation because that executive session hasn't been released. If it's released, it's going to inform the public a whole lot more. And that may answer a ton of questions, but I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. There are answers to every question. There really are, but it may take some history to dig back into it, but there are answers to these questions. Almost virtually every one I've heard tonight, there are answers.
If we could plant beans, we'd have more money.
Absolutely. If you had planted beans, you'd have more money, and the only reason we didn't plant beans is they voted no. Why'd they vote no? They voted no because of a situation that arose that is now cleared up. Oh, thank you. I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Public body comment. Teresa.
Okay. I've been on the board with the old board, the previous board, and this board. I've been to several city council meetings here recently.
And city council meetings are short meetings. They have their agenda, they get their stuff done, and they get out of there. Those people don't go back and forth with each other in front of the public. If they have disagreements, you would never know it, because it's worked out before the meeting ever starts. They sit there, they go through their agenda. Jeremy, it's not funny, because it isn't funny that we sit here the way we do and we behave the way we behave, and you don't think those people sitting out there don't know that there's turmoil within this board? And we can't even get business done. We don't communicate. We don't work together, people. And Jeremy, it is not funny.
You're right, it's not.
It's pathetic is what it is. That this board can't work together, get our shit together, and get something done, instead of working against each other and Bobby making the call to take away the $6 an hour. I don't think that that should have been your call. It should have been this board's call to vote on it. I don't think it was Sonny's call to shut down the dive team. If they wanted to do it, they should have had the board together and it should have been discussed and then done. I belong to the same committee that he belonged to, and I didn't know he was doing what he was doing until I get a text from a member of the dive team. Now, how would anybody like to be on the committee and get that text and say, I don't know what you're talking about? It's terrible. It's pathetic. You walk out and people think that we're a mockery. We can't get anything done. We better start working together, or none of us are going to, if you want to be reelected, you're not going to be reelected, because people are really sick of it.
Public body comment?
Mr. Chairman.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I apologize for laughing at that. I'm not, obviously I don't live in town, I'm not on city council. I don't know what goes on city council.
You should attend one of their meetings.
I've been to a few. I don't go to them all, but I've been to some. If our meetings are long because we're having our discussions out in the open, good for us. And if city council meetings are 15 minutes because they do everything ahead of time behind closed doors, bad for them. Okay? I don't know if that's what's going on, but if that were what's going on, then you've just exposed a very, very good thing for us and a bad thing for them. I don't know if that's what goes on, but if it is.
Public body comment? So there's a few things I've heard this evening, and actually on social media, that I've got to address it. And it seems to me like there's this or mentality that the folks of Shelby County are a sovereign county of this state. And when it comes to the statutes and the Constitution, that is what our governing rules are. But yet, I've heard it numerous times that, well, we should just do what we want to do, or do this or do that is contrary to a statute or to the Constitution. And I just got to put it out there that, no, we're not what we want to do. It is what we're said that we can do. And let us not forget that we are a Dillon's Rule state, which means that if it's not explicitly permitted, it is prohibited. So on the terms of deduction of pay, that's not a deduction of pay, it's an honoring of the contract. And then a little tidbit of information that came across the wire this morning, and it has to do with some comments made about competing with individuals or private business using a government entity. And I just saw this morning where the Chicago mayor is seeking options of developing grocery stores, the municipally owned grocery stores, in parts of Chicago that have been basically economically stricken. Now, if that's not a direct comparison to owning and operating a business, I don't know what it is. So, the headline specifically said grocery store. Now, it wasn't food pantry, it wasn't not-for-profit, it was not anything of the nature, it was a grocery store. So, I just thought I'd throw that for a little tidbit of information, but Anyway, I'll open the floor back up for public body comment. Public body comment? Public body comment? Hearing none, motion to adjourn? Carol makes the motion, Cody seconds the motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We'll do it.